One of the things that when we looked at buying the papers, one of the parts of that, and it was great. I attracted, we did a lot of great successes. But one of the key things I did was before the deal closed, I went and met with a guy named John Leger, who was the head of the Teamsters, because the Teamsters were critical to the operation. To get the papers out of the plant, and then our peak, we were on a weekend, we'd produce over 1 million newspapers. The Wall Street Journal for Saturday, the Inquirer would have 600,000 editions, the Daily News, the New York Times for this entire metro area, the whole region, all produced out of there. And what I found is that, nobody really had a relationship with the Teamsters, and they were kind of feared. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go down, and Upper Darby guy's going to go meet with John Leger. And I said, would you be willing to meet? And he said, yes. And I got to tell you, when I first walked in, it wasn't arms crossed, looking at me like this. It was like we were there to have lunch. But after we talked and we found out, and I listened to what his concerns were, because he's a really kind guy too as well. Strong, tough, great leader, but kind. When you listen to people, I found that, good things happen. And, he fought for his people, but I'll tell you, a punchline on that was a couple of years later when we were struggling, because I had listened and done different things like that, and knew I cared, walked around the plant, found out that there are certain things that if you were a driver and you're coming back and the vending machines didn't work. Well, get those fixed, because if a guy's done at the end of his route, you want him to be able to buy a bottle of water and a soda. And sometimes you'd find that one of the drivers, because it's a lot of physical nature of leading papers and putting them out, I put a nurse into the plant in Conshohocken. So if somebody had a problem, we could immediately help them out. And one of the great moments for me through a really challenging time, it's a tough time to buy a newspaper, but anyway, is that, in fact, a couple of years into it, they voted 296 to 8 to decline an 8% pay increase that they had been negotiated several years before that. Think of that. That's how the relationship I was able to build with them, by listening, caring, walking around, hearing what was going on in there. And a lot of times I'd hear from people, I've never seen a publisher in this place. They come during the day when we're not here. It's kind of like owning a restaurant. If you're open to own a restaurant, you want to be there at night when people are actually buying food, not coming in, before it opens up, kind of a thing. And those relationships were really tied to, frankly, they knew I cared, and I was curious too. I mean, so one of the things I recommend in situations where I've turned around agencies and things like this is making sure you're taking the time to ask these questions and to be hearing honestly, what are my employees saying? What are they thinking? What are my customers really saying and thinking? What challenges are they facing beyond the beyond that maybe you wouldn't see right away? And how can you help them solve those problems and grow their own lives? And sometimes, it takes a lot of courage to ask those questions because you're kind of afraid of some of the answers. But if you leave no stone unturned, if any question is fair game and you're willing to take those questions as well, I think one of the things you're going to find that there's opportunities right in front of you.